Hello, everyone. I am super excited today to have Marcus Packard here on the call. He's a wealth of knowledge and experience, and his story is amazing, and the things that he's doing are amazing. He's changing the world in big and small ways, and I want to bring this to you. Marcus is an engineer and social innovator. He has co-founded multiple projects like Copiosis, ShareBay, and he was at some point the global coordinator for Zeitgeist movement. And thank you, Marcus, for being here today. I would like you to maybe start with your story. What led you into doing so many things for society, for changing things in a good way?
Thanks, Guillermo. Thank you very much for having me. Your work is great, and I want to thank all that you're doing as well. It's very important.
Appreciate it.
I also want to tell everyone who's listening to this that you have the capacity to change the world with your voice alone. No matter who you are, you can really improve your society, your community, and the world if you just work at it. And that's what I'm gonna try to explain to you today, how you can do that, because it really is easy. It's just a matter of wanting to do it.
That's a wonderful message to start, because we get so much discouragement from thinking like, this is too big and we cannot do things. We just have to just get with our lives. But do we actually have a voice? And it can be powerful, especially when we connect with each other, right? And organize ourselves. And that's part of what you do. You work here right now in Pro-socialise Foundation. So I would like you to tell us exactly what you guys are all about, what you're doing.
Yeah, so if you want, I'll answer the question that you asked me earlier.
Yep.
So the way I got involved in this.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Yeah.
Start with that. Yes.
The way I got involved in this was that. So I've always realized that the society wasn't working. I think we all realize that there are a lot of problems in society. And we grow up and we realize that things just aren't right, but we don't see that there's an alternative. And when I watched Zeitgeist Addendum, I just happened to stumble across it one night. That just blew my mind, and I realized the next day I was like, okay, I'm going to quit my job, and I'm going to focus my life on making this a reality, to create a world in which we all care for each other and we all provide for each other. And that's what brought me on this journey, right? It brought me on first getting to know the theory, getting to know all these ideas, to understand them well, to study economics, to learn about, read Adam Smith, and to study all, monetary theory, et cetera. And then just to work on how we could start working on these improvements in our community, in our lives, for real, more than just talking about it and complaining, right? So, and that was the process that I've been going through since Zeitgeist Addendum. And it's led me to this methodology, which I call pro-socializing, which is very effective and very simple, and anyone can do, and that's what we work at. So the Pro-socialise Foundation essentially is it's an organization that can manage funds, that can collect funds, and that can use the funds to pro-socialize, which is essentially fostering mutual aid, both online and in real life, in the communities, in real life communities. And then there's, and then we do that, like I said, online and in real life, organizing free collaboration networks and teaching people how to be leaders, because this is really important, that everyone learns how to be a leader in fostering mutual aid. And that is something that we can do from the foundation, and then it becomes more than just a foundation, it becomes a movement. People learn about these ideas and free collaboration networks and how to create them, and then they create them in their own communities, and they learn from that, and they right away start changing and improving the communities where they live. Then that's Pro-socialise as a movement, Pro-socialise movement.
Why did you choose Pro-socialise as a name? And do the funds that people give to the foundation are just to sustain the basics and produce these educational programs? Or is this like a centralized entity that manages all the networks, or each network is independent? So there's two questions, I guess.
Yes. So essentially, the funds that come to the Pro-socialise Foundation, which right now are very little, we've just created the foundation, although the methodology, we've been working on this methodology for years and developed it and improved it. The foundation itself has only been existing this past year. We created
Okay.
it. Okay. And the funds of the foundation, they're not like, there are no salaries. Like I'm never gonna get a salary for it. But what the purpose is to be able to pay for communication campaigns. Fundamentally, that's what the money is for reaching out to people and communicating these ideas and teaching them, providing content, creating content, and disseminating content that teaches people why mutual aid is better for everyone and will not only provide prosperity and security, but through that solve most of today's problems. And how to do that, how to become leaders in that with this content. And that's basically what that's.
So it's just to produce, let's say, educational materials like a brochure or create like a one-day event that you can go and talk and just to pay for those basic needs to be able to put the message out, right?
Yes, exactly.
But then each network is independent, right? The people, you just teach them how to do it. And
yes.
People go into our communities and they use whatever system they want to just give them the guidelines, teach them how to do it efficiently.
Yes, exactly. And that's why things can grow so well. So one of the beautiful things of like open source is that open source, like, you know, when what you're doing is you're sharing ideas freely and people are allowed to use them right away and modify them, the expansion and the growth is enormous. And this is something, for instance, that we've seen in the crypto world, right? In cryptocurrency, is that it's evolving so fast because it's open source and people can copy it, fork it, and create an alternative, and people are learning from each other right away. And so the kind of like the caveat though is that we often don't get the praise or the recognition that we were the people who inspired that project, right? So for instance,
right.
You know, we've been working, teaching people about these ideas for years, right? And so we see how we've influenced language of you know, Jordan Peterson, Daniel Schmachtenberger, you know, people that are Douglas Rushkoff, right? Communicating to them, writing to them without getting a reply, but we see how then they use our words and our ideas in the following.
That's cool. That's really
you
good.
know? And this also happens with like the free collaboration network. So when we transmit these ideas, people learn them or people have practiced them in the free collaboration network that we've created, right? We've created and managed a few of them. People then replicate that in all sorts of different other places, and we don't get the credit for it, right? So it's hard to demonstrate how effective we are because we're not getting that credit. But on the other hand, we're being much more effective because we're not slowing anything down and it just grows exponentially.
Right. And coming back to the name, why Pro-socialise? Because I know that some people are going to hear that and get a little nervous, especially here in the United States where I live. Like if you say socialism, it's like, whoa, you just said evil basically for some people.
Right. Right. So the reason why we chose that word is because there's a meaning. Like pro-social is a word that exists, and it means that which benefits society, and can be summarized like as, you know, altruism, gifting, volunteering. That's basically what pro-social behavior is. And so the purpose of the movement and the foundation is to make things more pro-social, make our society more pro-social, make just everything that we can more pro-social, so more beneficial for society.
To teach people how to be more pro-social, basically.
Yes, how to benefit society. And what, you know, part of that is reminding people that society has a purpose, right? People often forget that, you know, that we're not just together because because we happen to bump into each other because there's so many people. You know, society exists because we started collaborating, we started helping each other out. That's why we're social organisms. And we started helping each other out to meet our needs better. So the purpose of society is to meet everyone's needs. And that's why we want to improve society. That's why we want to be more pro-social, because we want to make society better.
Absolutely, 100%. And people forget that. We are in society because they say, hey, you're good at, I don't know, like growing fruits. But just go ahead and do that. And I'll teach your kids or whatever, you know. And we get organized. So why not we own society? Why not become a better pro-social people, you know, help each other. Yeah. Wonderful. You touch on crypto, and that's such a controversial thing.
Yeah.
Just like so many things to me, I see always things like as neutral. Things are not good or bad. Things are how you use them and what purpose and what intention, right? So a lot of people in these type of circles really harshly criticize. Peter Joseph, for example, right?
Yeah.
He was like, crypto is BS and blah, 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 blah. But to me, it also has some benefits. It has some cool potential things going on for crypto. So tell us about what is your opinion, and maybe something that we can use to be more pro-social?
Not sure how crypto, yeah, so crypto is a good way to boycott banks, basically. So banks are a serious problem. The present monetary system that we live in today is tremendously corrupt and directly robs the poor and, you know, just funnels the money to the rich, right? And so the crypto is the democratization of finance, right? So everyone can create their own currency. Yep. And every organization can create their own currency. And what that does is it empowers people to have different ways in exchanging value and in accounting value, right? So the other thing that crypto enables, which a lot of people on the left don't realize yet, is that this is something for a while people talked about platform cooperatives as the solution, right, to the present society. And the reason why so they'd say like, and the reason why is because everything was getting digitalized, all these services and were getting centralized, right? So you'd have Amazon, you have eBay, you have you know, Uber, right? And what's happening is that people are losing more and more control over their production, and, you know, basically we're all becoming consumers and producers, but, you know, completely extracted from, right? And we have no unionizing power to set conditions. And what is possible with cryptocurrency is to create cooperatives that are basically an app. So with cryptocurrency, you can create an Uber, right? In which all the drivers, for every mile that they drive, they get like what would be equivalent of a share of the app, right? And with that, they could vote on how the funds are collected by the platform are distributed, how they're spent, the rights, you know, that are given to the drivers. Like all those things could be decided democratically by the drivers and by the users, because users could also get rewarded with government tokens, right? And then they could decide on how the platform evolves. This is all possible with cryptocurrency, but I see that as it's a tool. It's completely different from what we do in Pro-socialise. So I don't want people to confuse those things.
Right. It was just a tangent, but yeah. But it's true that you can have those things with a smart contract, which is like a algorithm that executes whatever people agree on, versus having a centralized company or a centralized bank to tell you what you can or cannot do with your money, etc. So I think it gives more control to people, and that's a good thing. But I did this video on YouTube of saying why Bitcoin is not the solution, you know, because a lot of people say, Bitcoin is the solution, we're gonna get rid of banks and that's it. And why I mention this? Because it all comes down to the mindset, to the paradigm. And it has to be the paradigm and the mindset of helping and meeting each other's needs. Because if we are using Bitcoin, but what everybody's doing is just simply accumulating Bitcoin, well, how is that very different from accumulating like dollars? Sure, you cannot print more Bitcoin and all those things, but it's not very different. So we need to go back into this mindset, the spirit of mutual aid, meeting the needs. And this is why what you're doing is so important, because you are doing it on a daily basis. You're teaching people how to help for each other, how to care for each other. And you said in the beginning that it can get rid of most of our problems, right?
Yeah.
What do you mean by most? How about all of the problems? What things do you think we can like not achieve by helping each other, by mutual aid?
Well, I mean, hypothetically, yes, eventually, right? We can, we could, go and explore the stars, end all poverty and disease, right?
Yeah.
And provide a sustainable abundance for everybody, right?
Yeah.
That is absolutely possible, right? But there will always be challenges, right? There'll always be, accidents. There'll always be, things that happen that make life, there will always be suffering in some moments or in some pockets and sometimes. And so that's why, I mean, it's not going to solve all problems, but,
right.
And the other thing that I think is also important is kind of like it's what we're talking about right now, is that there's a cultural, there's an effort required, and there'll always be an effort required. Like there will always need to take responsibility of our choices and of how we teach others to behave properly in a way that is beneficial to all, right? And that's always going to take work, and there'll always be challenges. There'll always be, certain situations where people are behaving destructively, and how we deal with that situation will always be a challenge, and we will get better and better at that. But there'll always be challenges, is what I meant. Yeah.
Absolutely, and I agree. And things come down to the person, the choices, but because we do have choices, even inside of a system that pushes us to behave in certain ways, right? Destructive, selfish, all of those things. I want to explore more of these because, I'm on social media and sometimes I share things and I hear, well, we just need to get rid of money. Money is just the what is it? The root of all evil, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things. And sure. But to me, it's not the root of all evil. The mindset of competition is the root of all evil. That is, seeing others as separate from us. And you take care of you, I'm here. I don't care what happens to you. To me, that's the root of all evil. And then money is just an effect, something that showcases that behavior. But that behavior is happening for a reason. So to me, that's what I'm here for, is just to change that vision of people and show us that we are really in this connected, and we're really in this together because we're interconnected, we are interdependent in a system, in a community, global community, and we just need to start changing that. And even when we interact with money and with others, that would also be different when we see each other in different ways. So collaboration is to me the key, but it happens for a reason. So what do you say to people, sorry for this long introduction to the question, but what do you say to people that all that we have to do is just change the system or get rid of money?
Yeah, so what I say is that they are avoiding responsibility. And that's one of the main problems in society today, is that people are avoiding responsibility. And because we will always have responsibility, and we want responsibility because that's what it means to be empowered. So when we say that we have to change the system, then okay, what you're saying is that you don't have the power. It's someone else that's deciding, or something else is dictating your situation. And of course, we are in there's a feedback loop, right? I mean, we don't have full control over everything, but there's a feedback loop between the system that we live in, the society, right, and us. And what we do have control over is what we are doing, and so that has to be the where we act. It has to be starting from an individual situation, an individual choice, to change society, to change the system, right? I think it's funny because part of that, I think there's a misconception, and I think it has to do with the fact that we have been attributing so much to like machines. We think of so much as machines because machines have made our lives so much better that we like to think of everything as machines. We like to think of our body as a machine, our mind as a machine, and society as a machine. But society isn't a machine, right? So society isn't a machine. It's not like it's a matter of changing parts or adding more lubricant with monetary systems. What is needed is to speak to the organism that is society. Society is a living, conscious organism of which we are cells. And when we speak to it, it hears us. And when we teach it new habits, it learns. And that's what we need to do. And that's what pro-socializing is about.
And you start with, like you say, in the individual level, by little, other people join. And eventually you can create new systems. Of course, we want new systems.
Yes.
And right now, our personal choices are against the system. And that's why it's difficult, right? Because we're pushed to be individualistic and selfish and maybe not share or give away or whatever. But we have a choice. We have a power. And I like very much what you said. We have the power, right? So we can create new feedback loops. And that's how you start. Obviously, you cannot create a system out of nothing, out of a vacuum. Yeah, sure, I want to get rid of money and I want to have another system. But it has to happen organically, more and more people joining these type of movements. And that's what you're doing. And that's so cool. So tell us about success stories and how many networks have you guys helped to set up and in what places and how are people doing it? What types of apps are they using and just good stories to hear about this?
Yeah, so I think so this is something I used to be depressed as well often when we look at the world and we feel disempowered. And part of this narrative also of having to get rid of money, it also disempowers, right? Because what we want to do, if you just take away money, then how do we relate with each other? How do we interact with people on the other side of the world? And so there's certain things. What we want to do is we want to empower people and we want to teach people to behave in a pro-social manner. We want to do those two things, right? So what I found personally is that the more I got involved in actually doing this in the real world instead of just talking about it, the happier I was, and actually, basically, it brought meaning to everything. It brought meaning to my life and it improved the lives of everyone around me. And it just makes everything, it just makes everything so much better. And what we found, so we started trying to create like alternative currencies, right? So we saw that as like a stepping stone that a lot of people were talking about. Oh, we can't just get rid of, go straight to gift because people aren't ready for it, right? So we tried creating local currencies, and local currencies they're a lot of work, and there's so much friction involved because you're having to account. And then,
how is it? Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
How is that different from using euros or dollars? What is a social currency? How is that different?
Because you create the rules, you create the liquidity, right? So you're not paying, the central bank. The central bank is not who decides who has money. You can create money amongst yourselves. But it still is the same thing that you're just always trying to benefit yourself. You're always trying to gain a profit from your activity. And the other problem with that is that it commodifies things. So typically what happens with social currencies is there's even more commodification. What once you were doing to your friends and to your family for free, right? Now you're doing and you're charging them. Right. So it actually does the opposite effect of what we want, what we want is we want to decommodify. We want things to be part of the commons, things which we provide for each other for free because there's an abundance and because we understand that we are together and we're in a community.
I love that. And because let's say I help an old lady to cross the road. Now I expect this old lady to maybe give me some social credit or social currency or whatever, where before I would do it just for free. So, and this is a great point that you don't want to like commoditize things. You want to go the other way, make it part of the commons and just come and take whatever you need to meet your basics to live, right? And I'll give, but no expectations. There are no expectations in these networks, right?
Exactly. There are rules. Every network has its rules to make sure that people, make sure it works well. It functions, but you can create new rules for each situation, and you can modify them because you're the one that's creating these networks and you're the one that's part of them, right? So what we did is first we tried to get people to use apps. So there are multiple apps that facilitate sharing and gifting, right? And we found that it just wasn't working to get people to use a new app. So then my wife, who is one of the greatest helpers in the foundation, she's also one of the founding members. She said, well, just create a WhatsApp group and, tell people how to use it. And so that's what I did. I created a WhatsApp group, which is, those who don't know, it's a phone chat group, right? It's like Telegram or Signal. And invited all my contacts to it and then said an introductory message. This group is only for gifting. And the way it works is that all messages have to be for asking for a gift or for providing a gift. And then if you can provide that gift, then you contact that person privately and the logistics are done privately. And, in the beginning, I had to correct people when they were putting stuff that wasn't supposed to be there. I think it's a process that we've all learned over time.
For example, who wants to exchange these for that, right? That would not be like, if somebody posts like, who wants to exchange these for that? That would not be like a gifting. That would be like a trade or an exchange.
Right.
So in the beginning,
so in the beginning, actually, we had to stop people from having conversations. We had to stop people from posting porn. I don't know if you remember, but there was a time where, like, in all WhatsApp groups, people would put porn. I don't know.
In a sharing network. I mean, what the heck?
So it was, in the beginning, people didn't know how to use these groups, and it was all sorts of stuff. Lord. And you'd have to, you'd have to remind people, and then sometimes you'd have to kick them out for a while.
Exchange. This is for gifting. It's not for that.
Exactly. It's not for debating. It's not for jokes. Also people.
Yeah, because jokes, people start putting the gifts and the funny jokes. Yeah, I see what you mean.
Right.
Yeah.
And but people have learned over the past 3 years how to use groups in general, and so it's been now it's a lot easier. And then it just worked really well. Like people, the gifting part worked really well, and that group doubled. Now we have 2 of those. I think there's like 150 in each of those groups because WhatsApp groups have a limit. Then someone.
Oh, they have a limit. I didn't know this. Yeah. Sorry.
They have a limit of 250.
Is there Telegram? Is there like a limit for Telegram, for example, which is another popular platform?
I think there are a few thousand. I don't know. No, actually, the Telegram groups sometimes are a lot of people, I think. Yeah, they go changing. These things have gone changing. I think WhatsApp now, you can actually have larger groups. I think maybe you can, but this is very recent. Yeah. And now, so what happens is that people just use it for gifting. They create more groups. A town next by created another one on Telegram. Another town created another group, and the idea kept spreading. And then from there we moved to creating a group that is just for sharing objects, and then a group that is for carpooling, a group that is for helping each other out, like services, lending a hand. And all of these.
So you can divide it into like more specific needs. Yes.
You can if you want to, and some people prefer having it all in one group, but it depends because
once it becomes large enough, that's when you probably need to divide, right? The needs.
Yeah, and also sometimes what happens is if you don't have specific groups for each need, things get buried. And so, like for instance, sharing with strangers is a completely new activity. Gifting, it's a lot easier because you don't need something anymore, and you just let go of it, right? But sharing, that person has to give it back, right? And so we're not used to lending to strangers. So having a group specific for that can facilitate it not getting swamped by the gifts, right? Or for instance, we have another group now. My brother created a group for toys, and that's just for toys and games, right? And what happens is when you have groups that are specific for purposes, it's easier for people to find what they're looking for, or right. So and for it to not get buried under, because what happens is the gift cycle ones, there are tons of gifts every day. Like tons, I mean, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 every day, right? And so if you're looking for something else, or if you want, it can get lost under all that.
You can get lost, and maybe the person already like give it away, and you just need to contact that person. But it seems like simple enough.
Yeah.
And however, obviously your experience is invaluable, and there are some potential pitfalls. So if I go to your website right now, do you have a PDF or a set of instructions, guidelines to help create a group that is successful based on your experience?
Yeah, so yeah, we could share that. There's a guide. We have an article that describes all the activities that someone can do to improve their community and radically change their community, because this starts slow, and if you work at it just half an hour a week, you will greatly improve your community. But if you work at it every day, an hour a day or something, it will greatly, like, you'll see huge results in a year or two. Like, of course it takes time. Everything takes time. Like, it's not going to be sudden, right?
Right.
But it's the improvement is enormous. And so this article explains, it'll give you examples of how, like, specific actions, because often, like, the general idea is basically what we need to do is we need to advocate these ideas, right? Advocate these concepts and these ideas. Then we need to organize these free collaboration networks or get people to join them and teach people how to use them, right? And then we need to teach people how to also be leaders, right?
And create their own.
So and create their own, or invite people to the networks that exist, help manage, moderate the networks that exist, right? And so that's when it really starts growing exponentially. Is when people become leaders. And there are a lot of just specific examples, and when you give an example, it just seems silly, right? Like, for instance, sending a message to all of your contacts, right? And inviting them to sharebay.org, right? Like, that's a simple action. But when you add these up and you do this over a year, right, and you spend half an hour a week doing these types of actions, the result is real and lasting, and it improves everyone's lives. And that's what's described in the article. And how to create these groups, so on the website, there's a link. So when you go to the pro-socialise.org website, you will find that there's a place which is learn how to do it in yourself. Like, one of the options is, and that will bring to another website, which is our earlier website, which is changingtheworldiseasy.com. Changingtheworldiseasy.com. So there we do describe more examples on how to do this, how to create groups. And we also provide a link to a directory, which is a global directory, which is, we're working at collecting all the different ones that exist in the world. So it's really immense. It's
like sharebay.org, you mentioned, for example.
So sharebay.org is on that list. And there are many others as well. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you said, like, to work an hour a week, that will be for the person that is organizing that particular network, right? To moderate, to start inviting people. Those are the actions that take an hour or so a week to get started.
Yes, to get started. So the networks that we manage, we practically, like, I personally don't even look at them most of the time anymore. Like, they just run on their own. People learn how to use them, and they grow on their own. People invite people to them, and people tell others how to use them properly. And yeah, they just run and grow on their own now. And that happened pretty quickly. In the beginning, though, there is a certain amount of time in which you need to make an extra effort into getting people to join. First, getting people to join. So you need to contact as many people as you can to get them to join, and then reminding people. So, like, the group, you need to tell them how to use it and what's proper
Don't
use.
put your jokes here, those type of things, or worse. Yeah, okay, but like anything, in the beginning it requires more effort. It's like the plane taking off. In the beginning it takes more energy to take off. But what is really cool is, like, it grows on its own, and it's just self-sustaining, and that's what we want, for these things to be viral and grow.
Exactly. That's what's so beautiful about that, is that they just work so well. Like it just doesn't really require any effort. And what we find is that when people have already used these, they start doing this activity and this behavior in other groups, and then everything can start to become a free collaboration network, and
Right.
that's how this is going to change all of society and provide a sustainable abundance for everyone, because it's a process in which we realize that this behavior is easy. People who don't even understand the theory, they understand that this works and it's benefiting their lives, and they start doing it elsewhere, and it just creates more and more of it.
Right, and I mentioned this to you before. It happened in our school and our community. That it happened organically. We didn't think, all right, let's start with this free collaboration network. We just started sharing on this app that we have for parents. Hey, who needs this, or who can provide for that? Oh, I can help you. And it started like this, and it's just become like a natural thing of the community to give away your bikes when they are small for your kids, or to provide the childcare for somebody that needs to go out to the doctor or whatever. And that's so cool. And that's what we want, to change the values, to change the culture. It doesn't happen overnight, but if we all engage in it, and of course in the beginning, like we said, we're going to get the pushback from society, from the systems that we have right now, which are incentivizing selfishness. I have my own tools, I have my own everything. And no, let's just share. Let's just and it happens, and people see that it's real and that it improves their lives, and it's a positive feedback loop. And
Absolutely.
it just grows from there naturally, because people like to help, people like to contribute, right? And we touched about this before a little bit, but so much depression and so much lack of meaning. And this is so fulfilling and so rewarding to notice that you're making maybe a small change in someone's life, but something, right? So that's really, really cool. That component of personal development and like contribution.
Yeah, and realizing that you're improving society. I think everyone, well, it is. It's not that I think that this is a human need, and there are people that have studied human needs. There's Maslow. And the need and the motivation to contribute to society is something that is intrinsic to all of us, because we are social organisms. We want to be remembered well. We want to be appreciated. We want to improve the world. And when we do it, right, when we do these things, even though they seem small, it makes our lives so much better, and we just feel great. So this is something that there are many studies that have shown this, right? Like there've been studies about like they'd give like money to people, and they'd say, okay, now spend that on whatever you want. And then they'd ask them, okay, so how did you feel about that? And then they would, the same experiment, they'd gift the money to other people, and they'd say, okay, now spend that money on other people. You can't spend it on yourself. You have to spend it on others. And they found that they actually were a lot happier. They were a lot happier having spent that money on other people than having it spent it on themselves. And then when they replicated that experiment in a society where that money was actually like significant, like it was like a month's salary or something like that, like it was a significant amount of money for them, the same thing happened. Even if there were people that were actually needing the money, and they weren't well off. They were people that were struggling. Spending the money on other people made them happier than spending it on themselves.
I believe it totally, and it just reminded me of one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called Pay It Forward. Have you seen it?
I don't know. I think maybe I have, but
man, I love that movie. It's old now, bro. It's like, I don't know, 2000 or something. It's this little kid that just for his project, middle school or something, he created like a network of help network or something where he will help 3 people, and then those 3 people had to go and help another 3 people. And it's this chain reaction. And if we all did this, I mean, it's just so quick. It just becomes viral. It's a really cool movie. It always motivated me quite a bit. And you know what I was thinking is like, in the past, social media changes this dramatically, because I think in the past you would go and give somebody that you saw maybe needing help, and you just give this to this person, but you never see that person again. So I don't know, just sure, you feel good, but that person doesn't have a way to maybe give it back to. But now this person, you can invite this person to a network, and this person gets that thing, whatever that is, time or money or whatever, and he's part of the network. And then you are in relationship with that person, and he sees that there is more going on. And then whenever he feels stronger and better, in a better place, he can also participate in giving, and giving and receiving becomes just the same thing. Because when you're given, in a way, you're part of the group, you're part of the network. So you receive it as well. It's this really cool thing, in my opinion. And
Absolutely.
in the long term, we are all part of the same mega super network called planet Earth. And if we could see it with those eyes, wow. And if we can stay connected in networks through social media apps, we can see that movement, that velocity of money that sometimes it's calling economics, right? The velocity, the movement. And that's so enriching and it's empowering. So I just want to jump out of here, like start doing like networks right now. Like, okay, my neighbors, I'm like the little city here, let's do it, So everybody should feel the same way. Like, why not? And this is the beauty of it. It's completely legal. I mean, how are they gonna turn this thing down? What are they gonna say? They cannot you cannot set up like free collaboration networks.
Right, and no one can be against the idea. That's one of the beautiful things about it, is that when even to people who are who believe very much in having to work hard to earn a living, people that would be seen more as conservative or something like that. All those people, when they participate in these free collaboration networks, they get it, and they understand it, and they love it. Like everyone, the idea of generosity, sharing, like everyone is in favor of that. Like it's something that everyone likes, and it's amazing because what's this enabled is that. So before I started organizing free collaboration networks locally, right? For a while, what I tried to do is I was trying to live without money. I didn't want to work for a living, and that was seen as like someone being lazy, right? But what I was trying to do, I was trying to find different ways to work to make a new system of working, right? A new system of living without having to participate in the monetary system, and I got a bad reputation for that for a while, because I was kind of preaching a lot, and I was, I didn't want to work for a living, so I was dependent of my wife, basically, right? And when I started creating these networks, people in general, I had a bad reputation. I could feel it. I could walk through the street and I would feel lack of appreciation, right? Or people making, nasty comments, like all sorts of stuff. And now it's the total opposite. Like everyone really appreciates me. Like people want to say hi to me from far away. They want to come up and talk with me. They want to help me out with these free collaboration networks. They want to.
You become a celebrity now.
Kind of. I mean, yeah, it's completely changed my life because of that. Because people, it just makes sense, and help each other out. And that's why it also works reaching out to public administration. You can reach out to public administration and you can explain to them how to foster generosity, and it's just something, and how fostering generosity is more sustainable. They look at you in the beginning like,
are you crazy? But then what happened?
I mean, so when you give them, the trick is to give them very specific examples of how to do this.
Mm-hmm. How would you approach a local municipality with this project? How would you do that?
Yeah, so what I would do is reach out to them either directly, like if you can go and speak to them, better. But if you can't, or if you just haven't had a chance yet, what you do is you look online, you look for the emails of your selectmen, and you write to them. And you explain to them that mutual aid is what creates prosperity. You give a little bit of examples. How
wait a second, mutual aid creates prosperity. That's not true. Capitalism creates prosperity.
Right. So mutual aid, like capitalism. So it's interesting because one of the important things that I think you need to agree with people when they talk about that. So for instance, libertarians, right? In general, they people who proselytize a free market, they are they have a point. They have a point in that people being allowed to pursue what they believe is best, right? Their own interest, what they're interested in, right? Let's put it that way. What they're interested in, and make their own decisions of working and exchanging economically with whoever they want, right? That does generate prosperity because in part, but it's only one part of it. It's only one part of it, but that is needed. That is needed because we are the more minds working at everybody has only us as individuals know what is happening in our situation. So we are the only ones that know what is best for what is the situation. And all of us have different creative capacities to try different things. And we try different things in different ways. And so all this diversity of experimentation is what creates all sorts of new possibilities, right? And this is why we need people to have the freedom to into their own endeavors and their own projects, right? And to interact with people freely, right? The thing is, though, is that at the same time they also have to be working for creating common good. They can't forget that there's a common good, and that contributing to that common good benefits everyone more. And that's
100%.
the second part, right? That's the part that often people of the free market forget, right? People of that mentality forget.
And I wasn't trying to be facetious. I was actually trying to play the devil's advocate, because I don't want to leave anybody behind with this collaboration or with cooperation paradigm. I want to include everyone. And if there's a capitalist person that really believes in like the market and like pursuing his dreams, and like as long as he's doing it in an ethical way, to me an ethical way is to internalize the cost to society and the environment. If you're producing like products that are like hurting the environment or people, obviously are not going to be behind you, but it's somehow you created a product that is just bringing like positive to society, and others are willing to pay you money for that, and you're super wealthy, that's okay with me. I'm not going to like criticize you and say like, no, we cannot absolutely be abundant and using trade and all these things. I don't want to exclude anybody. I don't want to tell you you're a bad person for behaving like this in your life, and all that you have accomplished is nothing. I want to include everybody. And the way you do is like you just said, let them be who they are, and let them achieve the wealth that they want, the way that they want. But don't forget to tell them also that, hey, you're part of this, you're part of this system. Contribute, bring it forward, right? And sometimes these people get a lot of like criticism for philanthropy, right? Because philanthropy, in fact, there's a book that this whole book is about criticizing philanthropists. I know you heard about it. I can't remember the name of the author, but because it's seen as like okay, this is a way for me to deduct my taxes and all of those things, right? So it's like another loophole. But the core of the philanthropist movement is actually to give back once you have achieved certain level of wealth. And I think I'm all for that. So you said that you have people even from the right side of things, political right, more conservative, that they love it. And it's because they have achieved whatever they have achieved through a lot of effort in their lives. Now they have the means, and they want to be a philanthropist and give back more. And nobody is against generosity. It's very rare that a person doesn't feel good being generous, right? Once they are able to do it, what happens is like when you don't want, you are struggling and working really hard to make your ends meet, and then you see that others are getting it for free. You're like, he doesn't deserve it. He's lazy or whatever, you know? So people want to be treated fairly and just, and they feel it's unfair for others to get it for free when you are working so hard. I get that, and I understand. But once we pass like the basic survival needs and we get to a certain point, everybody left or right, we all like generosity and be part of these things. And I think we should not criticize so much those. What happened? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, sorry. All of a sudden I lost your.
You check the recording, see if it's recording.
Yeah, for real. That's the first thing. Still recording. So, so sorry to bring it up so long, you know, but I don't, you know, the common good economy, this guy called Christian. And he says, like, let's just keep using capitalism, but let's just use it with a different bottom line, with different metrics. Let's just do things differently. But we can still have abundance and collaboration inside of the systems that we have and transition little by little with this new mindset. It's my point. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah. So I think that what's important is that we understand what our goal is. And once we understand what our goal is, which our goal is to meet people's needs, that's the goal of society, then the rest can kind of, we can find different ways to do it, right? But we want people to have freedom. We want people to have the capacity to make their own choices, to interact with who they want, to go wherever they want, right? And we need people to remember that it's working as a team that we accomplish all our prosperity. And it's interesting because I'm now president of the local Rotary Club in Reus as well. And when I first joined Rotary, I got to know a club that is very, very much about volunteering in the community. And then here in Catalonia, which is where I'm living now, the club that I got to know was more like a check writing club. And what I discovered after being a member of Rotary Club was that it's very business oriented. There's a lot of it's very much of business oriented people as well. So I had to learn how to speak to them about these ideas. And what I discovered is that there's a lot of really great things in the business community, in the business world, like what they admire. There's a lot of things that they admire that are really fantastic, which is working, like putting a lot of effort into getting something done. Now, when the people that are involved in business, right, and people, and when they, like you were saying earlier, when people talk about like capitalism is what provides prosperity. Well, usually when people want like business, what they're looking for is prosperity as well. That's what they want, right? And so what they're doing when they're talking about capitalism, they're talking about organizing people to work at providing products and services, right, which is also what we want, and to provide prosperity to the people that are in that endeavor. Right. So that's something, creating prosperities is something that they understand. Absolutely. It's what their objective is. And they also understand that it's teamwork. And so a lot of these people in the business world, they understand very well the idea of I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine. Like there's a lot of teamwork involved in business circles. Right. And that's why there are like secret societies, for instance. That's what they're about. Like they're about collaborating. And that's right. So, and a lot of business has to do with these type of clubs, these type of groups of people that help each other out. So they really get it. And if you speak to them in that language, right, they understand. You know.
Yes, and you're bringing a great point, which I often make, and is that of course you can collaborate and help each other out of the goodness of your heart to meet everybody's needs because you're in a better position, all of those things. But even if you don't feel that way, collaboration is still the smartest way. And you can collaborate and you can cooperate out of pure selfishness, just because in the long run it's going to be better for you. And because you are in the same system, and this happens a lot in nature, you know.
Mhm.
So I don't know if in nature there are many altruistic situations, but there are definitely many cooperative situations where you just help me
Mhm.
because I help you. And it's just everywhere is cooperation because it's simply smartest, like everything that we have achieved in society, most of it has come about when people get together and have a plan and let's just do it together. So why are we so much still like competing with each other, fighting for the same resources? We have a brain between the ears. Why don't we put it to work together?
Yeah. So I think there's a specific reason why we're in this situation, and I strongly believe that it is because of population pressure. Right? So this is something that has, kind of like the Malthusian idea, right? Like that there's when we discover a new land or a new way to create more food, right? We grow, our population grows, and then it gets to a point where we use up all that resource, right? So population pressure has been like a factor that has been shaping culture. What happens is that when we became a predator that was beyond all other predators, and we expanded all over the world, right? And so to the point where we started reducing, like we hunted off a lot of the largest animals and things like that. It got to a point where population pressure was real, and that's, I think, logically, well, like our human body, when there isn't enough food, right? When there's enough food, the body starts consuming its own cells, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, because there was no predator to keep our population in check. Now, most animals have a predator. They have something that keeps their population in check. We became our own predator, and this is what the Romans would call homo homini lupus, which is man is wolf to man, right? And this is what, like, the competitive culture that we developed was a response to the population pressure. And so in a sense, the people that defend this idea, it may be more prevalent amongst the elite, that they're like, so there's a really good book. Marvin Harris is an anthropologist who did a lot of studies on this, on how population pressure is what brought us to be a war, to do war, right? And it's indirect. It's interesting because the way he explains it, he says that what happens when people are in war cultures is that the men are given prevalence, and then there's more female infanticide. It's very well studied and investigated, and then what happens is that the amount of females in a population is what determines the population size and growth. And so indirectly, war would keep the populations in check, like the size,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this culture of competition has been, it's against our nature of collaborative nature, that we're a symbiotic species. We depend on each other, and we have this instinct for collaborating. But we had to compete because there wasn't enough for everyone. And that's been going on for millennia. So there's an inertia. There's millennia of inertia, cultural inertia, that we have to counter. And there's a specific reason why we have to stop that now. So now, just like when the body's eating its own cells, it can't last forever. Well, we can't continue with this competitive system because we're destroying ourselves, right? That's what the competition is. We're competing with these others. We're destroying ourselves. So we need to realize, and this is something that's only happened in the last 70 years, is that we no longer need to compete for resources,
Mm-hmm.
because now we have contraceptives, we have family planning, and we have automated machines and automated mines that can produce an abundance with very little labor. Those two things, not just one, but both of those together, creates a whole new possibility of abundance, and it ends the population pressure problem. But that's just nothing in comparison to the millennia of
Right.
the need, of real population pressure.
Right. I mean, and we have other technologies, hydroponics and all these things. I think we can, if we get organized, to sustain and give space for everyone. But yes, it's in our genetics, because we were in the environment and we didn't know what was going to be tomorrow's lunch, and you just had to survive. But it takes awareness, and comes back to this initial point of choice. It takes awareness to not be led by your most basic instinctual desires of survival at any cost, and you have to kill or whatever. It takes higher awareness. But we're human beings, and if we want to become a civilized society, we have to start being civilized ourselves, and start with the most basic. Let's look for common ground. Let's look for the common good, and help each other. It's just the smartest approach. So we're in this together, and we have to evolve.
Absolutely.
We have to evolve starting from there, from the awareness. It's not just, and then the systems will come, because in a way what you're doing is just, you're already creating the systems. These networks are systems. That's a system. It's a small one.
Yes.
But imagine if we just keep creating that, and we start little by little creating different cultural values and way to relate to each other in society, municipalities here and there. Eventually, maybe one whole country will take on these, and then another country, and then you have a global system.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. That we just have to start from that awareness of, okay, I have two choices right now. I can just try to become more the competitive side of things right now and act up from there, or I can help this person and become more. And that's a choice that you make every day, every second. So, and we have a voice and we have power. And despite the system right now, we can take these things and do it. And we will create the systems little by little. That's it. I'm complete with that comment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said earlier in the other conversation we had, so what they found recently, studying cultural and genetic coevolution, is that culture is necessary for our survival. And it's pretty obvious, when you think about it. I mean, culture is what we teach each other. That's what culture is. It's what's transmitted teaching, right? What we learn from each other, right? That's what culture is. And this, there are certain cultural ideas or behaviors that will lead to the end of our civilization, right? And this has happened in the past before. For instance, Greenland, the original colonizers of Greenland, it was forbidden to eat fish, and they wouldn't eat fish, even though they got to the point where they all starved, and the ones that were left, they left, they moved, the whole civilization ended because they refused to eat fish, even though there was tons of fish.
Do you know why? What was the reason for that?
It seems like what happened was that their leader ate poisoned fish, ate bad fish, and he got so sick because fish that's not good shape can kill you, right? So he survived though, and he forbid fish. Yeah, it's amazing. So culture, it's fundamental, teaching each other the right thing. And that's, I think, what's important is that people don't understand often when we talk about how this changed the world, is it is not only us behaving more ethical, more generous, more sharing. It's teaching others to do so. And that's the key. The key is that we have to become leaders in teaching other people to share, to gift, to volunteer, and how to do that more effectively, which is what we talk about when we talk about these free collaboration networks. These are the new systems. These free collaboration networks are, they're more effective ways to help each other out and to provide for each other.
Yeah, and they are very pragmatic, and they are very close to put it into action versus other approaches which talk about the scientific method, and this is just so much bigger system to put in place that this is right here around the corner. We can all do it.
Yeah,
And that's
it's
the
really
beauty of it.
easy.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. It's really easy. Like people can just with your voice or writing, messages to all your contacts, emails to everyone you know, or with your voice. Like you can literally just go door to door to everyone in your community and tell them about these free collaboration networks or create one yourself, a new one for your community. And you do that by creating a phone chat group and you just set the rules, and it's really that easy. Of course, it's work, but it'll always involve work. Like we're never gonna. There's no solution that will avoid responsibility, and that's what people have to understand. They have to assume, and once they assume that, and they take on, the responsibility, and they find the courage to become leaders, they will greatly improve and change their community.
And it can be fun too, I don't think that you have to see it as a work, oh my goodness, I have to do this. I mean, you are on a Sunday, today is Sunday, right? And you could be watching a movie, or you could just like, hey, I'm going to invite the neighbors to join this thing. And it's not like you are asking them for money. That would be like,
Yeah.
you're just saying, hey, do you want to join this collaboration network? And maybe a good number of them will. And it's kind of fun to see what they have to offer, what you can offer. It's a good way to relate to each other. So it can be exciting is my point. So why not, right? Give it a
absolutely.
try.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's something that's completely addictive. What I mean by work is that in the beginning it is work.
Right.
Like in the beginning, like I remember, like I have Asperger's and I'm on the spectrum. So social interaction is difficult for me. And you may even be seeing it in my conversation. Like I stutter, I get nervous and I get, I block up. And it was a lot of work for me to learn how to become a leader in the community and reaching out to people. And it was, in the beginning, it's a lot of effort. But once you do it and it starts to give results, then it becomes addictive, right? Because then it's like, wow, this is working, right? I mean, we're changing the world here, and then you actually have to, like, at least in my case, people have to take me away from the work because I'd be doing it all day.
Right. Well, I see you as a very articulate person and president of the Rotary Club, so no less. So I want to say that my whole cooperation paradigm, it's just exactly this, like just came up with these basic fundamental ways of thinking. Like I see, like this is how most people think. This is a competitive paradigm, and it creates a scarcity, and it creates tension, and servitude of ones to others. So why don't we do the opposite? Why don't we behave and think in a different way? Let's cooperate with each other, and we're going to create abundance. We're going to get options, and it's just so simple, and it's so beautiful to me. Yeah. And I think your project, what you're doing, is exactly as a reflection of that. It's a materialization in systems of that way of thinking. But you can take that to anything. That's the beauty of thinking in a way. It's like, okay, you're not limited to networks. This is one way. But you act and you behave and you think from this way. You can apply that to anything. So we have the strategy and you have the tactics. The tactics are unlimited. You do whatever you want with that. Yes. And that's why I say, like, you can apply it to your own business. Even if you are like Jeff Bezos and you are the most capitalistic person in the world, you can still think from a cooperative mindset, and it will probably change around Amazon. Amazon is having this negative connotation now. When people talk about Amazon, it's kind of like talking about central banks. It's like, okay, it's just, you have to keep using them, but you don't want to, the type of thing, So, but imagine if Jeff Bezos started to really giving away things and to like help set up things. Wow, he can do it, and we all can do it in our little lives. So I just want to say that it's just so beautiful what you guys are doing, and so practical. And I think it's right here for everyone to take it on and do these networks with your communities, with your friends, with your neighbors. So I love it, and I'm so glad that we had this conversation today. And what are your long-term goals? Let's just wrap it up with these. What are your long-term goals And let us know if you have any closing thoughts after that. But what would you like to see accomplished in the next 5 years?
It's funny you said 5 years, because I used to have like a motto: RBE in 5 years. Resource-based economy. Remember?
There you go.
And so I'd say RBE
they say
in 5 years.
It's not long enough to see things, you know.
So well, there's a long-term, like, I really do think that we can in our lifetimes make this shift, and that is the objective. Now, more like visible objectives. Some of the things that we're working on is, for instance, getting public administration. And actually, yesterday I went to the inauguration of a resource bank, centralized resource bank. They call it a Library of Things, in the town next door, and it got a grant of $250,000 to do that from the public administration. So this is starting to work. These ideas are starting to get out there. We haven't succeeded yet as our foundation, but this actually is starting to work. One of the other objectives that we have as like a specific project is to succeed in getting, so for instance, the library system here in Catalonia, is very effective in sharing things. Now, library is very effective, and you can ask for a book at any library, and they'll send it to you from any other library, right? And they will organize that. You just ask them, and our local library has started to offer other items as well. And I reached out to a selectman, and I gave that as a specific example of something we could do. They set that up, and we did that. And the thing is, though, is that they can't keep track of it with their computers, because the coding system is determined by the regional level, right? Catalonia. We like to say we're a country. It's kind of a region of Spain, and the Generalitat, which is the public administration of the regional level. It's like Barcelona and the rest of Catalonia. They set that coding, and so one of our projects is to get them to change the coding a bit to add other items, so that instruments, tools,
cool.
Devices, all these things could be added to the coding system, and then they would be included in every library, and they could be shared amongst libraries.
Wow, that's really, really neat. And it's happening?
So I have some contacts. We have some contacts in the public administration, and I've been from 2 different angles. And right now that's been on pause because we are low on personnel. We have no personnel, basically. I just have support from friends and family and people that come to the meetings sometimes. So it's kind of on hold for now, but it's just waiting for us to reach out to them again. Yeah.
Definitely happen in the next 5 years.
Yes, definitely happening in the next 5 years.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Marcus, so much for spending this time with me today and discussing these amazing networks that you guys are teaching to set up. I will leave a link to your website and to the instructions on how to do this on the, if you don't mind, on the description of the video, and hopefully many thousands of people watch this and they can start doing and creating their own networks. That would be my wish. So thanks again, Marcus. Let's stay in touch.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for having me. And enjoy a shared world.
Definitely.
Thank you, Marcus. See for the comments.